Right, so we're back with part 2 of the Garpy versus Evil Zotac of some kind of Zotac final from some time this year in 2012 on Lost World. Best introduction ever. Going back into the analysis of this game, the current position is Evil just died and Garpy just secured the lead for the first time in this game, and we're now going to just see what Evil can do out of control to remedy his current situation. And the sound levels are better now, so you should be able to hear the music, but it shouldn't be overpowering my voice. So we got Evil taking a fight, okay, so that was interesting, right? We've got Evil getting actually quite lucky in this situation because he gets the LG and the yellow and he decides to go straight down to see what's going on. And he saw Garpy basically walking out, not looking, because Garpy is just like this, and so he could get loads of shaft onto him, drop down and constantly connect the shaft. Garpy unable to connect shots, and obviously not being that strong because of the last engagement that happened prior. Like, Garpy hadn't stacked back up that much, so Evil had enough to just take him out, and Evil knew that once he saw the opportunity that he could commit to that fight, and that's why he went for it, which I think is a good decision. It's a confident decision. So now we have Evil for the first time in this game. He's 200-200. He hasn't been 200-200 in the game until now. Garpy hasn't let him get to this point. So we'll have to see what Garpy aims to do to try and fight off this situation. And we actually go into the first overtime now. Evil creeping around trying to catch Garpy. Evil's really strong. He knows that Garpy needs to try and do something like go on the lower levels to try and get onto Mega, but Garpy doesn't do that. He chooses not to, and he's going for the yellows, which is a good decision. And Evil now trying to pressure into yellows. Garpy getting caught out, and Evil going to land a lot of shaft. So really, oh, very nice rockets from Garpy. So Garpy had basically stacked up on a couple yellows. He decided, because Evil was looking for Garpy, because a common thing that people will try to do is they'll assume, let's say I'm Evil like from 20 seconds ago or whatever, Mega is spawning very soon and Garpy, the out control player, doesn't have much to work with. So often the out control player who doesn't have much to work with is going to be around these areas, around this yellow, and this yellow and the LG. So it's a logical assumption for Evil to go and make a read and say, okay, the Mega is going to spawn soon. Garpy is going to expect me to try and cut him off, and for me to actually try and play on the higher levels and leave the Mega up. So if Garpy, so in Garpy's mind, if Evil was doing that and he quickly went down here, Evil wouldn't have time to stop him getting on the Mega. But that is not what Garpy ended up doing. Garpy ended up going for the other option, which was just to try and stack on these yellows, and he managed to get 2 yellows. I'm not sure if he got a third one, and then he took the fight on Evil, and because he had position, he managed to get himself position, and Evil didn't read Garpy's position correctly, and Garpy won the fight. So now Garpy's done enough work that he's reduced Evil's stack enough and regained enough of the map control that he's not in a position where Evil is suffocating him on the resources. So Evil now dropping back down to this red, as that is the next thing to spawn, grabs it with no contestation from Garpy. I wish I could switch to Garpy's POV to find out exactly where he is, but I cannot do that, alas, due to Wolfcam and no MVD. So Evil positioning himself on the Mega, he knows that's next, and Garpy might be on position. There he is, with the trap. He knew Garpy was out there, but didn't expect the trap, and really good play from Garpy to go for the trap there. He does sustain a lot of damage in the process, but look, he's reduced all of Evil's stack, and he maintains position on the high level there. So he basically, one of the things if he had been a little bit more lucky, or we can actually see him, Garpy, this time. But if he'd been a little bit more lucky, he would have connected with a rocket here, which would have negated the red, and really had Evil only at just, instead of 200, 100, he would have been 100, 100 or so, or 200, 0 even. So now Garpy has to play these yellows, and he knows where Evil is and that Evil's going to deny this yellow. So Garpy has to try and play back, and he knows where Evil's going to be, so he's placing the rockets, and he's getting a bit of damage here and there, nothing substantial yet. And Evil just wants to try and maintain control whilst also pressuring Garpy as much as possible, but he has to make good reads to do that. And Garpy trying to hide up there for the Mega, but gets spotted by Evil. So Garpy was going to try and make a play on that Mega, but had to abandon it because Evil spotted him, and now he chose to fall back on this yellow. So Evil is just trying to constantly intercept him, and this is what he should be doing. The problem is that if he makes one wrong move and commits a little bit too much in one way or another, Garpy's going to try and get on position or something, like he's going to move in the gaps of Evil's pressure. And Evil making sure that he's here for every Mega, and Garpy trying to see when Evil goes to that. Garpy should have a time on it now, and that's a really good thing that Garpy did to drop down to see when the Mega was going to be taken. It's a strategy you can employ when you don't know the timing of the Mega. It's to see when the enemy player drops down. Like drop down here, you're not committing to a fight at the Mega, and Evil is rushing to the Mega because he doesn't want you to steal it. So you're completely safe down here. Evil jumps on the Mega as it spawns. You now have a Mega time, and it's something you can then factor in for one of the next possible plays in you gaining control. We've got Evil in position here, trying to intercept Garpy once again. Garpy reads the situation well, knows where Evil is, and places a rocket. Evil has to try and not take too much damage from this, from these plays of Garpy. These defensive plays of Garpy. That's basically his aim, is to not take too much damage, because eventually Garpy's going to land that one or two big rockets, and then he's going to realise that the situation suddenly changes, and no longer is Evil in a position where he's going to crush Garpy in a straight up fight. He's going to have like a more even stack, or maybe even Garpy will be ahead in the stack, and it changes the way Garpy can move around the map, and that's what he'll be looking for. And Evil has to try and stop taking damage from Garpy in the way that he has been, because we can see that his stack isn't, even though he's getting all the items, his stack isn't nearly as good as it was consistently prior to Garpy hitting those shots. Garpy using getting on position again. We've seen that he's using that really well, and look, here we go. Garpy hits two good rockets. Evil not really able to land much damage. Garpy making good reads with position. And he takes the fight to Mega because he realizes it soon, but I guess he doesn't have an exact time on it. I'm not sure if he actually picked it up or not. So he does a lot of damage, and Garpy is... I really like how Garpy's playing this, because Garpy isn't playing too defensively, and that's the reason why he's actually able to... I mean, there are two different ways you can play this map, and he's not playing the defensive way, basically, like, because there is a way for him to basically keep doing what he was doing when he was in that position. When he was in the position around here, because some players, what they want to do is they constantly collect shards and like a yellow, basically, and depending on which side the enemy player commits, they go, like if the in control player commits to this yellow, they'll go to the other yellow, and so on and so forth, and they'll just play it really defensively with rockets, making it really hard for the in control player to get on top of them. But Garpy is playing the other style, where he's doing damage and he's reacting constantly to the changes of stack from Evil, and he's constantly trying to move inside the holes of Evil's control to actually do more damage, so that he can eventually get more opportunities to win a fight. And I actually really like that style, and I think it's definitely a harder one to play. And we've got Garpy trying to defend that yellow, and it's a tricky position. He's only got two ways to escape, and we see Evil recognizing that and rocket jumping up. But did Garpy escape? There he is. Didn't manage to escape, but Evil now using the rocket jump to steal away that yellow of Garpy. It's like he left the red and the Mega up purposely, because he knew that Garpy wouldn't go to those. It was a read. He knew that Garpy was weak, and that if Garpy was to try and go for those, it would be a very risky play, and that he and he basically counted on Garpy not going for a super risky play there. And Evil basically taking everything, which is a really good way to deal with it. So in Garpy's position, what do we want to really accomplish here? It's still a tied game, and the second overtime just started, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, hang on, yeah, okay, so the second overtime just started, and so Garpy has a lot of time to work with. He's in no desperate need of frags, he just has to survive, and he has to try and turn the map around, and we've seen that he wants to land damage, and that's the way that he wants to get back into the game. Can we see Garpy? Wolfcam? No. So Garpy's just going to have to keep doing what he's doing, keep avoiding Evil and playing defensively with the rockets until he can find himself in a better position. But Evil hits a really good rocket, which is the first time in a while, and manages with that amazing pine there to actually take Garpy out. So Garpy now has a minute and a half to make a frag happen, or he's out of this one. So he needs to step up the aggression because he has to do damage. And that's what he's doing. He's working with the position and the lightning gun, which is the weapon he had out when he got fragged, which is why he has it, I suppose. So Evil took a lot of damage there, and Garpy made a situation possible for himself because Evil's on these back areas now collecting the yellows. So it gives Garpy some time to get it into a nice position for the next item that he wants to make a play on. So he went for the red and got it. And he took an okay, so that was really good, right? Garpy decided that basically he's only got a minute left to make a frag. The Mega's spawning, and if Evil gets that, Evil will have such an amazing stack that Garpy's gonna have to, like, that fight already was really amazing. And Garpy's on like 100-100 here until he takes this Mega, but so he recognizes that he has to take the fight over on the Mega because he knew the Mega time, and Evil, he just has to win that fight basically. And a lot of the situations in this game will come down to that, and he realized that again the stacks would be even enough that it's a good chance that he can actually win it if he gets a little bit lucky, and the luck went in his way and he landed some amazing rockets, and Evil wasn't able to do much as he got bounced around. So now Evil's on the back foot after Garpy tied it up with a minute left before the next overtime. Now Evil has to basically make sure that he doesn't die, and the plays he has to make are going to be defensive ones. He doesn't have to make a frag happen, basically. He just has to try and get himself in a favourable position to take an efficient fight, and that's going to be the aim that he has, whilst not dying. And so we heard him hit 4 plasma bullets there, so he knows, unless he counts it, some people count them, but he knows that he's done roughly like around 100 damage. So he definitely took off that yellow that Garpy just took, which is good information. And now he's taking a fight with the plasma. That's quite a crazy move. Definitely not something that's a reliable choice, but he makes a lot of damage there. And now Garpy's on the back foot and gets fragged immediately after the overtime. So Evil, after landing that plasma, was in a position... I mean, the plasma is a very underrated weapon, actually, because, and if we talk about not the plasma that was landed out here, but the plasma that Evil like peeked around here, saw Garpy trying to take the yellow, and he's like spam some plasma, hit a good amount, like 80 to 100 damage worth of plasma. So he basically just removed 2 yellow armors from Garpy, and Garpy wasn't in an amazing position to begin with, and Evil had 100-150, so that suddenly meant that Evil can challenge on the open areas of the map. And that is exactly what he did, and he got a frag out of it. I mean, basically, it all comes down to winning the fights at the end of the day. I mean, he had the stack advantage to actually take that situation, but it's then up to him to make the situation work in his favor and win the fight with his own fighting skill. And we see him catching Garpy when Garpy is trying to get this yellow. So now Garpy again is in this position where he's got a minute and a half to make 2 frags to tie this up, and it's looking the worst for him that it's looked so far in this game. And Evil's going to be on a 170 stack, and Garpy at best is going to be getting like 100 and a yellow or something like that. So Garpy has no weapons, so he can't move around in the open. Now he has position, and this is like really something that's nice for him, but Evil recognizes that his only advantage was position and that'd be the best way for him to deal damage. So he takes that advantage away by rocket jumping up and gaining position, meaning that Garpy does indeed have to fall back and run away. And that then gives him the Mega and the RA safely. And so now he's on this 200-200 stack, and he basically doesn't have to do anything. He just has to, like, Garpy has to come to him, which is a great situation for him. So if he wanted to play this defensively, he very well could try and take the best position possible and take it defensively. However, he does drop down onto Garpy's shaft, and Garpy gets a lot more damage than he perhaps should have done, but because Evil's stack was so much better than Garpy's, it didn't matter in the end. But if he wanted to be ultra safe, he didn't even have to take the fight, he could have just waited. So the second part wasn't as analytical, I suppose, but I hope you guys enjoyed that, and if you liked it, let me know if you want more of it, because there's a lot of stuff that I want to do, and I'd obviously like to provide what the community wants as much as possible, and weigh that up against what I think is represented or not. Because again, like I said before, there is a lot of 1v1 QuakeLive content. I can definitely go more in depth in the future, but for now I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you next time.